What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squid, back into the video. Today I want to talk to you guys about Revolution Synchron. This is a new revolutionary card, no pun intended, that's coming out in Duelist Nexus, and it's actually kind of crazy. But before we dive in, I just want to say it as an aside really quickly. The WCQ just happened over the past weekend, and even though we scrubbed out on day one, we still had a feature match, which was a lot of fun against John Woken, my friend, who we did a little bit of trolling, let's say. It was all in good fun. And I want to say that I was really excited because actually a lot of people came up to me and introduced themselves and said, hey, I watch your content and stuff, and I was really humbled by that. I didn't think that there were that many people that actually watched my stuff, so I really appreciate all of you guys for coming up and saying hi, getting autographs and stuff like that. It just really blown me away, so thank you so much, all of you. Sincerely appreciate that. It was really a lot of fun. With that aside, let's talk about the Revolution Synchron. So I know you guys like talking about meta cards and stuff that's coming out. Well, this card happens to be pretty busted. It's seen a lot of play in the OCG, specifically in certain decks that are synchro based, like Tier Limits, for example. But I think this card is probably a lot better in the TCG because we don't have things like Max C, and the format is a lot kinder to combo decks because the only thing that really keeps them in check are hand traps or something like a Nibiru. So yeah, I think this card is going to be decently good, that there are a lot of different combo lines, and I'm sure some player is going to break this card in some sort of crazy combo deck that uses every engine right now. So what Revolution Synchron does, it's a level 3 machine tuner monster that has the effect which reads, if you would synchro summon a power tool synchro monster or a level 7 or 8 dragon synchro monster, this card can be used as synchro material in your hand. So as long as you have a level 4 or a 5 on the field, you can use Revolution Synchron directly from your hand without any restrictions. You can just synchro right away with a normal summon level 4 monster on the board, which is kind of crazy. And that's not the only effect. So this is an effect you can only use once per turn, but the other effect that's absolutely crazy is if this card is in your graveyard and you control a level 7 or higher synchro monster, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card, but it becomes level 1. You can only use this effect once per duel, so it's essentially a glow-up bulb while in your graveyard that you can bring back at any point in time when you control a level 7 or higher synchro monster. It doesn't even have to be a dragon synchro monster, it can be any synchro monster, so it's pretty crazy. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, in the OCG, they were actually using this in tandem with a card called Beast King of the Swamp, not King of the Swamp, because Beast King of the Swamp is actually a fusion substitute that happens to be level 4, which is very important for you to be able to use Revolution Synchron in hand, whereas King of the Swamp, on the other hand, is only level 3, so it cannot be used with Revolution Synchron, even though King of the Swamp is just a better Beast King of the Swamp because you can pitch it for search of polymerization from your deck. So what OCG players were actually doing is they would normal summon the Beast King of the Swamp and then pair it with the Revolution Synchron that's in their hand in order to go into level 7, which is coincidentally Ancient Fairy Dragon. This is a card that was banned for a long time, but it recently got unbanned because they eroded it with the effect, the caveat where you can pop all field spells on the field and add a field spell from your deck to your hand, but it has to be a different name than the destroyed card, which doesn't really matter in today's Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially because there's so many different planets. We already have the tier planet, obviously, Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino, so if you're playing Tier Limits, you can easily pop that to search for a Rathos to go into your Kashtira engine if you're playing like cards like Fenrir or Tier Limits Kashtira, or alternatively, you can actually go into Peaceful Planet Calarium, which is the Manadium field spell that allows you to search for a bunch of extenders and continue to do your combo. We already saw how crazy Patrick Hoban's deck was at the WCQ that he played, being able to get to the top 8 of the actual, or the top 4 rather, of the WCQ playoffs, and also into the deep top cut of the actual event itself. So this deck is actually pretty crazy, and when paired with something like Revolution Synchron, I think that can be really amazing. Now, it doesn't stop there. You bring back the Revolution Synchron as a level 1 glow bulb effect, which we previously went over, while you have Ancient Fairy Dragon on the field, and then from there you have a plethora of options. Traditionally, the OCG, they would go into the Chaos Ruler and Mill 5, which is absolutely broken, but luckily for us TCG players, this card is actually banned. Konami had the great foresight to actually ban this card before we could abuse it today. However, there are some other great cards that we can go into. Number 1 is Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. This is a level 8 powerful Omni effect negator that requires you to have a tuner and a non-tuner synchro monster, which Ancient Fairy Dragon fits the bill, so we can easily go into an Omni Negate on our 5th summon, right guys? Because you have your normal summon of a level 4, you pair it with the Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is 2 summons, and then you go into the Revolution Synchron, bring that back, which is 3 summons, and then from there, actually on your 4th summon is Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is kind of nutty to think about, because you're really stopping Nib before it even hits the field, and then from there you can continue to combo with whatever field spell that you happen to add off Ancient Fairy Dragon, if any. And that also means that you can use the other effect of Ancient Fairy Dragon to special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your hand while going under 5 summons before Nibiru could land on the table, which is pretty crazy now that I reread it myself. So I didn't even know that before. And another good generic option that you can go into is actually Visa's AMRITARA, which is a new level 8 Synchro that's coming out in Duelist Nexus, which requires a light monster and a tuner, which Ancient Fairy Dragon just happens to be light, of course, again. So you can easily go into Visa's AMRITARA, which allows you, when Synchro summoned, to add a spell or trap that mentions Visa Starfrost from your deck to your hand, and then during your main phase, you can also destroy one monster you control. Also, for the rest of the turn, all Synchro monsters you control will gain 800 attack, so you can use him to trigger your Vanadium cards, or simply add a spell or trap that mentions Visa Starfrost from your deck to your hand. And trust me guys, there are actually a lot of them, and I'm going to show you guys this in 1 second here. There are actually like crazy amount of spells that you can add, not even including the planet field spells themselves. So it's basically a searcher, it's basically a Kick Kalos that allows you to search a bunch of cards. There's also Diabololantis, a Menacing Mantis, which is a good honorable mention, I should say, because this allows you to foolish an insect or a plant from your deck to your graveyard, so this card could potentially see some play. Unfortunately, Glow Bulb is still banned, so I don't see anything great to send immediately that you can make use of the effect, but it's still decently good because it can choose an insect or a plant, including itself, to treat as a tuner, so you can continue to extend in your plays. So yeah, I think that's really, really cool, actually. Another thing that we should definitely mention is the fact that Revolution Synchron can be searched with tuning. Tuning is a not once per turn searcher for any tuner Synchron from your deck to your hand, and then you mill the top card of your deck, which is just an added bonus for the card. Now imagine you're literally milling like a Kelbeck off of your one card or something crazy. The mill one could potentially matter, and the craziest part is that you're essentially able to play up to 6 Revolution Synchrons in a given deck with tuning, and on top of all of that, you can potentially splash other playable Synchron tuners from your deck to your hand, because there are actually some that could potentially be splashed as an extender in certain decks. If you want to go for like a link play, you could potentially consider something like a Jet Synchron or a even a Quick Draw Synchron. I think he doesn't have a restriction, of course, with linking. It's only specifically for synchroing, so you potentially could use him to go into some link summons. So these are just some options that you guys can look at with the additional inclusion of tuning, which can search Revolution Synchron. I think it's really, really neat. So I've actually made a list of cards that you guys can actually search off of Visa's AMRITARA. This is by no means the entire list of cards. As you can see, they're up to 2 pages if you enter Visa Starfrost in the description box and dueling book. And I've actually picked out the ones that I think are meta relevant. You can see here there are a bunch of cards. Manadium Assistion being like an extender. You can search a couple of planets as well. Primeval Planet Perlorhino, and also Rake Phobia. If you want to go into Scareclaw stuff, you have Scareclaw Arrival, Tearlaman's Grief. Basically, you can search up all of the Tearlaman spells and traps. You see here there's Scream, there's Heartbeat as well. You can also search up Manadium Reframing, which is basically like an Omni Negate Solemn Judgment just by going into AMRITARA. That's kind of interesting to think about now that I look at it. You can also search Tearlaman's Crime, Tearlaman's Suliak, Tearlaman's Metamoise, and even Trivikarma, but I'm not sure why you want to, because it does the same thing as AMRITARA. Ironic, lore-worthy. But yeah, I just want to show you guys the sheer power of this card, because it's so easily accessible with Revolution Synchron that I think this might be something to consider for the upcoming metagame. I think it could be actually combo heavy, especially when a new ban list comes and Keshtira gets hit. So this is just something to consider, I think, as you're making your combo decks, as you're making your Vanadium or Tearlaman's decks moving forward. Another really cool thing about this whole entire package is it instantly gives you access to Therion King Regulus as long as you have a field spell to pop. And how that works is you obviously go into Ancient Fairy Dragon to pop your field spell, which then allows you to add Therion Disc Coliseum, which in turn adds Therion King Regulus. You can bring back the Revolution Synchron from your graveyard in order to make a powerful Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and because Revolution Synchron actually doesn't banish itself from the graveyard for whatever reason, you can then use Regulus to target the Revolution Synchron in your graveyard to bring it back as an Omni Negate. So out of 2 cards, the level 4 in the Revolution Synchron, you're getting a whopping Omni Negate in the form of Therion King Regulus, a Therion Disc Coliseum with protection on the field, and also a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. So this is pretty crazy. Maybe this is possibly splashable into a lot of level 4 decks just for this combo. The other thing with machines is ABCs. A lot of people are anticipating ABCs to be decently playable with Revolution Synchron because they're all level 4s, and Revolution Synchron just happens to be crazy for the deck because of the existence of Union Hanger, which can easily be popped to add Theory on Disc Coliseum while getting the effects of your ABCs to trigger, and in the end getting a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, so you can establish easy way to get to your ABC Buster Dragon while having Omni Negates on the field. This is definitely something that you guys can consider. I'm sure there are other combos as well, incorporating the ABC cards that could make this deck even more lethal. It make this combo a lot more successful, just putting up a huge board. We already knew that ABC previously put up like an unwinnable board if they went first and were uninterrupted, and now this just makes things a lot easier to do with Revolution Synchron, because all you need is to normal summon any of the piece and you're almost full combo. If you normal summon B Buster Drake with Revolution Synchron, I'm pretty sure there can be some lethal damage done there, on top of Ancient Fairy being able to special summon another piece that you add to your hand. So even if you don't have a field spell, this could still be a viable combo that allows you to tap into your combo that you want to see on turn 1. So yeah, this is pretty crazy. Another card I want to briefly talk about is actually Reborn Tengu. This is a card that a lot of people have forgotten about since 2011 Billy Break Tengu plant format. But this card says if this face-up card leaves the field, mandatory effect, special summon one Reborn Tengu from your deck. So is there any way this card could actually work with Revolution Synchron? I mean, we also have the Baby Dragon, so that's something else to consider, because as soon as you link off, or rather synchro with the Reborn Tengu and the Revolution Synchron, you make a level 7 like Ancient Fairy Dragon, then you can bring back another copy of Reborn Tengu, which can easily be used with the Revolution Synchron to make something powerful like a Hyper Librarian, if you're considering to continue your synchro plays, because it comes back to level 1, you get another Reborn Tengu, you synchro off for Librarian, and then the third Reborn Tengu pops out. So this is maybe just something that's completely out of La La Land, that's probably not going to see play, but I just thought I would mention it because it's actually kind of interesting to think about. Yeah, so maybe something we can consider. Okay guys, now let's take a look at the level 7 Synchro Dragon monsters that we can actually go into. Obviously, there are some level 8s we can go into as well, but that makes it a lot more difficult because Revolution Synchron is level 3, and there's not an easy way to get a level 5 onto the board, unlike a level 4, which we can easily normal summon, unless you play something like Cyber Dragon or like an Extender, but I think a level 4 is a little more practical, and the powerful ones happen to be level 7 anyways. So starting at the top, Ancient Fairy Dragon, we kind of touched upon this, is probably your best bet for searching field spells, for special summoning monsters from your hand as Extenders as well. We also have Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, which is not nearly as good, but if this card is special summoned, you can target a special summon monster your opponent controls, return that target to the hand, and it also happens to be a quick effect, a trigger effect rather, if a level 5 or higher is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, so it could potentially be used on your opponent's turn against a certain deck. We also have Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, which is like a negating monster effects for level 5 or higher. Something to think about. One that really caught my attention as well was Shooting Riser Dragon, because when this card's special summoned, you can actually send one monster from your deck to the graveyard. Obviously, we knew about this, which terrorized the Nationals format in the previous NAWCQ last year, because it was easily used with Halka Fibrex to be able to flourish stuff and start abusing cards like Fairy Tale Snow. But I think it could potentially see a resurgence. Obviously, it's not as good anymore, but it's just something to keep aware of because it's level 7. We have Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, which could be relevant for Pendulum monsters, or Pendulum decks rather. We have Ancient Pixie Dragon, which is a retrain of Ancient Fairy Dragon that allows you to draw a card anytime a field spell was activated. So that's kind of interesting. You can also target a face-up monster on the field, pop it, but you have to control a face-up field spell card, or rather your opponent has to control one as well, either or. Black Rose Dragon, obviously this one's really interesting because now normal summoning a level 4 can potentially be threatening to your opponent. If they don't interact with it, there could be a Black Rose Dragon that nukes the entire board out of nowhere off one normal summoned level 4. Very innocuous. Like, that's the thing with Revolution Synchron. It hides itself in your hand. So, like, no one knows it's coming unless they see it's coming. So, it's really interesting to think about it that way. And, of course, Power Tool Dragon, which is a level 7 and a card that you can go to if you play a lot of equipped spells. Or another one that caught my attention was Power Tool Braver Dragon, which happens to be a Power Tool Synchro monster that you can go into with a level 6, because this is a level 9. So in the OCG, a lot of times they were actually going for the Smoky Grenade, the Smoke Grenade of the Thief, which allowed you to look at your opponent's hand, but obviously this is banned in the TCG for a good reason. They used it with Guardian Rod Chaos, I believe, which instantly destroyed the Smoky Grenade when they were equipped at the same time. So that was kind of like their combo there. But I still think Power Tool Brave Dragon could see some play in the TCG because we have things like the Beastios, which are level 6s, so we can easily go into it and then potentially equip up to 3 equipped spells with different names from our deck or graveyard to this card. If you're playing something like the Adventures, that could be made easily by equipping the Dracoback, so just something to be aware of there. And then Dracoback would allow you to turn on the effect of Power Tool Braver Dragon, which says you can send one of your equipped spells equipped to this card to the graveyard, then target an effect monster and negate its effects. So just cool little interactions there that you guys can consider. That's about really all I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm definitely going to make a combo video, so guys, look out for that to explore how we can actually play Revolution Synchron in an actual combo-based deck. If you guys have any combos with this card, definitely let me know in the comments below because I'm not really sure how to play with this card either. But other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah, thanks for stopping by.